I'm John Hanna for CDTV.net in New York, and we have Ari Kaplan from Ari Kaplan Advisors joining us in New York as well. Thanks for joining us, sir.
My privilege to be here. Thank you.
Now, sir, I got your email about your new book that just came out. Tell us about your new book.
Sure. The new book is called Reinventing Professional Services: Building Your Business in the Digital Marketplace. I think your listeners might appreciate that the original title of this book was called The White Collar Hustler.
Okay.
And the idea behind the book is that professionals have historically had this opportunity to get their advanced education or their advanced skill and degree and certification, and clients would typically trust them and come to them, and they would cultivate relationships in a very standardized way. But that option is really not available to them in the current market, and my goal is to empower them with some creative ideas for how they can cultivate those relationships both offline and online and really give them an advantage in the professional services marketplace.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit. This is published by Wiley, right? And this book just came out in June of this year, right?
Yep, it came out this summer. Yeah, and
And
it is published by Wiley.
and it's also available on Amazon.com. Okay. Now that we got all of those things out, let's go a little bit deeper with regards to the book now. What are you telling your readers with the book?
I am telling my readers that there are very straightforward, practical ways that you can create opportunity to connect with your clients. I speak at a lot of schools around the country, so for students that you can promote yourself for job opportunities. I also speak to a lot of groups about professionals in transition, wanting to move from one practice area to another, from one profession to another, and how do you begin to cultivate relationships with people in your current market and then outside into the broader community.
Okay, let's look at some of the tips that you can that you've discussed on your book.
Sure. I think that it's best understood with this anecdote. So I did a North American tour in June, and I was in a taxi in Minneapolis. And I got into the cab, and the cab driver was very nice, and he said, "Oh, excuse me, sir, would you like a bottle of water?" And he has there near my seat, this is a regular taxi cab, nothing fancy, and offers me this cold bottle of water that's, closed, available for me, and says, "This is for you." And I said, "Really? Why would you offer me this bottle of water?" And he said, "Well, to be perfectly honest, it usually increases the tip about, 15 or 20%. And we both laughed, and I thought, in an instant, this individual had completely transformed what it means to drive a taxi. And the question that I always have for people who are reading this book or in the audience when I'm speaking somewhere is, what is your bottle of water? So as professionals are sort of executing on their various projects, as they're counseling their clients, as they're speaking to the public, the question is, what is that bottle of water? When we think of innovation, we think of the iPad, right? We think of something so remarkable, something so transformative that it's virtually unattainable for most people. And so it prevents us from actually doing anything. But my point is, what can you incrementally innovate? What small thing can you do on a much more repeat basis for a very targeted audience that will enhance your profile, that will really showcase your value? And so in that regard, the first step that I always suggest to people is think of who's in your audience. Who is it that you want to meet? We have become this culture of collecting cards or adding friends or building contacts, but who is it that you're specifically trying to reach? Until you figure that out, until you identify the names of people and the roles that they have, it's going to be much more difficult for you to really get immediate success. And when I ask people around the country, who do you want to meet? And I ask this question all the time. Who do you want to be? At all different levels, people in all different disciplines. And I say, who is that person? And they laugh and they kind of shake their head because they haven't really thought about this, which shocks me every time. And they they say, oh, I'd like to meet this kind of person who could hire me, person that could, who would want to be my client, person that has a job for me. You know what the person that I get most often? The shocking thing, the person I get most often, and it's not Lady Gaga, it's usually Dale Carnegie. Most people, a lot of people I speak to in all different disciplines, all different professions, they want to meet Dale Carnegie. And then I have to sadly report to them that Dale Carnegie is not alive and is not a good choice for the kind of person that you want to meet. And so my first tip is always, who do you want to meet? And you can find that out in lots of different ways.
Okay, so you've defined the objective of your marketing, which is like who do you want to meet and what is your bottle of water, right? In order to bridge the gap.
Right, that's right. What is it that, and then, in my first book, which is called The Opportunity Maker, I had this theme of what makes you interesting. Because when you're interesting, you're memorable. And when you're memorable, opportunity follows. And so that concept has evolved into this theme of, what is your bottle of water? It's very consistent with this idea of what makes you interesting, what makes you memorable. But what's your bottle of water, and are you a hustler? And those questions will really help shape the things that you're doing, because the revolution and the extraordinary changes that are occurring for people are not as great as one might think. It's really much more of an initiative-based issue. Am I going to take the initiative to just reach out to the specific people I want to meet? Am I going to be more proactive? Is there a creative way that I can use? I'll give you a social media example because that's on everyone's mind. I was recently speaking in Chicago, and a company hosted a tweet up, sort of, for my book. So it's the CEO of this company tweeted to his followers and said, hey, we're going to host Ari Kaplan. You're welcome to come and talk to the author. He'll be signing books, etc. And it was really very generous of this company. And one of the people who came was a young professional and not particularly interested in me or my book. I wasn't offended, but it was funny that he had come. And I said, so, thank you for your honesty. Why did you come? He said, well, actually, I applied for a job with this company, and I started following the CEO. And when I saw that the CEO had invited people generally to come to this event, I thought it would be a great opportunity to meet him and members of his team. And you know what? It was perfect. It was a perfect opportunity to meet him and members of his team. It was extremely well received, and not a single other applicant for that position came to this event. And the CEO was really impressed. He said, you know what, let me take you into the person who's looking for this particular hire, and happy to have you talk to that person. And it was so well executed in the sense that this person did not transform anything. He did not, conduct this extraordinary level of innovation. He simply followed an individual in whom he was interested, with whom he had a connection, who was in his industry. It was all very consistent with some of these ideas. And so it really reflected well on him, thinking, well, if this guy is so creative in the job interview process, I would think he's probably pretty good, all things being equal, him being qualified in terms of how he would execute in performing the job. So when people think about those ideas, it should spark, and that's my goal. My goal is always to spark an idea and have the person execute, to kind of initiate a conversation and then get people talking amongst themselves. And that's really my goal and what I hope. And in fact, I'm happy to offer your listeners, I have a tip sheet on some of this stuff on terms of creating opportunities. So if they want to email me if they can email me or tweet me or something, my email address is just ari@arikaplanadvisors.com. I'm happy to send them a tip sheet with some of these ideas that are already listed in a nice PDF format.
Great. Ari Kaplan of Ari Kaplan Advisors. And I'm John Hanna for cdtv.net in New York. Thank you.